which pays an advertising fee to the station. This is WAAY 31 Law Call.
Good evening and welcome to WAAY 31 Law Call. I'm Sharon Doviet. Tonight it's Ask Us Anything night. We are really with you here live on Sunday night, answering your questions on any legal topic. Call and be live on the air with us, 256-536-0077. Or you can also text us your question to that same number. You can also email a question any day of the week on any legal topic. You send it to lawcall@waaytv.com, and when we get to a show that's on point, we pull some out. Tonight we're going to be talking about everything from car wrecks, flock cameras, family law questions, whatever you'd like to talk about. Heath Brooks is here from Timberlake League and Brooks. Good to have you here.
Yeah, good to be here. Call us about anything. You know, anything that happens to you out there, or maybe you happen to a family member. You know, we're open book tonight.
While we get some of your phone calls locked in, let's take a look at tonight's You Make the Law Call clip. We pulled some video. Okay, so motorcycles and vehicle accidents. Ooh. Okay, this guy he's just stuck out there. Now, I've been in that situation before. You pull it. I've not been in that situation. So when you look at this from a personal injury accident kind of standpoint, what do you see? I mean, this vehicle is pulled way out in the road and he probably shouldn't be there.
No, he shouldn't be there, because what you got to do, and if this is the state of Alabama, what you got to do in Alabama is you got to yield to all traffic until you can safely pull out of that intersection, that drive, whether it's a private drive or another roadway, and go whatever direction you want. And it looked like that he pulled halfway out and got stuck in a precarious position and didn't wait for all the traffic to clear. And so what ended up happening? Somebody ended up hitting him. But if you're in the state of Alabama, and we're one of the few states in the entire country that has this as a rule, we have something called contributory negligence. And if you contribute 0.0001% of your to your injury, and if that whatever negligent conduct you had gone through actually caused your injury, you cannot recover a penny. In other words, if you have caused your injury at all, you can't recover. Okay. And so in a video like this, I look and I say, okay, well that motorcyclist clearly should have been able to see the guy sitting out in the middle of the road long enough in time that he'd been paying attention to stop, you know. And so it's probably both of their faults. If you're in Tennessee, if you're in Georgia, the jury may assess the driver of the car 70% fault and the motorcyclist 30% fault, and the motorcyclist can still recover. Okay, but in the state of Alabama, if it's 1%, you can't recover in Alabama. Okay.
We've got an email question that came in. This one about margaritas. Okay. I was drinking margaritas at a Mexican restaurant and they served me way too much. I fell in the parking lot as we were leaving and cracked my wrist bone. Not sure what I tripped on. Can I sue them for not cutting me off? And by the way, the drinks were much stronger than normal. Okay. Something like that. What do you think?
The short answer is no. Okay. You don't have a cause of action against the bar for drinking too much. Okay. It's not the bar's responsibility under Alabama law to keep you from injuring yourself if you drink too much. Okay. Now, it is against the law for a bar to overserve someone if they knew or could reasonably see that that person was visibly intoxicated. And if the bar serves someone who is clearly visibly intoxicated and that person goes and hurts someone else, in other words, drives drunk and hurts someone on the road, then the bar establishment or the establishment that gave the alcohol to that person that was visibly intoxicated could be responsible. The fancy legal term for that is a dram shop action. Okay. You know, but in terms of you yourself getting injured from tripping, I don't think the law is really going to protect you so much there. Okay,
what if it were not an alcohol situation, but it's just a hole in the parking lot? There's a big pothole out there and you trip on something like that. Is that a potential thing?
That is a potential thing. Okay. You know, so now we're changing law from dram shop law and we're looking at what's called premises law. Okay. And basic premises law in the state of Alabama is that you got a duty to keep your premises in a reasonably safe condition and to warn of hazards that you knew about as a premises owner, should have known about, or you created. And there is a series that the law on premises cases doesn't come from down in Montgomery. It comes from judges that write opinions, about 150 years of them. And so that's how the law has been synthesized over that time. And every year a new case comes out dealing with an issue where somebody has fallen in a parking lot or slipped in a store or some other way they've been hurt on premises, and the court has to come up with a solution to that that person and whether or not they can recover. In this situation, there actually has been a case dealing with a pothole in a parking lot. And the Supreme Court of Alabama has said that if there is a hole in a parking lot, regardless of whether you could have seen it, because you've got to look at all that traffic that's going around the parking lot, that if you fall in that hole, then that could be the store's responsibility.
Okay.
Now the bigger question is it the store's responsibility if you got overserved alcohol, you're drunk,
and that's
then
what
you
caused
fall
you
in
to
the
fall.
hole?
Yeah. Okay.
So
go see a lawyer with that.
Right.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about food recalls. There's been so much this summer with all the lettuces and the things that were making people sick. Food recalls. Yeah. So if you have a situation where you bought a food and you ate it and the recall happened and it made you sick, do you have a lawsuit there?
Here's the deal. Over the years, we've gotten recalls from all different kinds of. I can remember some sandwich meat recalls that occurred, egg recalls, lettuce recalls, or spinach recalls. Over the course of all of our lives, we've seen recall after recall for food, and then people get sick. They get salmonella, maybe they get E. coli. They go to the hospital. There's the bacterial infection you can get now from eating lettuce. So you go to the hospital and you get treated. And some people don't make it out of this, and so it's a real problem. And those family members, or they'll call us and say, "Hey, look, do we have a case? We ate at this restaurant, and now we're sick, and they say it was a lettuce. What can I do?" And so we've handled those cases over the years, and I can tell you that it's sometimes difficult to find the actual supplier of whatever was causing the illness. But if you can find the supplier, and a lot of times you've got to do that when you get sick at a restaurant and you know it's that food, if you can keep it. We've tested it. We've sent food off to test it for bacteria. You can find E. coli in the foods. You can find the different types of viruses. You can look at this food, examine it, and figure out if that's what caused the illness. So short answer is yes. When you get sick because a company has allowed their food to become contaminated, and it is bad, and you have hospital visits, you have time off from work, those are claims you can make against the company that caused you to be sick. The rule in the state of Alabama is that it's actually, here we go, we've gone from car wrecks now to premises, now we're going to products liability. It is a product. A food is a product, and it has to be fit for its intended purpose. And so if you go into a restaurant or you buy a bag of lettuce and it's not fit for the intended purpose, maybe it's been washed with E. coli infected water, and you get sick, you have a claim against that company.
Okay.
And those are ones that we've handled. Now, that can be difficult. You may go into federal law because these companies are not the same. They're not in the state of Alabama.
Right.
They
probably got supplies from who knows where.
They got supplies from all over the place. So it's a difficult shell game sometimes to track down and also to prove your case.
Yeah. We've got Christina on the line with a question from Union Grove. Hi, Christina. Good evening. Thanks for being live with us tonight. What's your question?
Yes, I was traveling on a 2-lane road.
Okay.
The other driver coming towards me went over the double yellow line and hit me. So state trooper worked the accident. I didn't find out that he didn't have insurance until I got my report 3 days later.
Okay.
He was driving with a suspended license, has no insurance, had a vehicle that belonged to somebody else, and he has no insurance. What is my recourse?
Good question. And first off, I'm glad that it sounds like you're doing okay, so thank goodness.
Okay, Christina, so this is a story we hear a lot in the state of Alabama. Over 20% of drivers on the road, and some people say higher, don't have insurance for whatever reason. License is suspended, can't afford it, don't want to pay for it. And so what do you do in that kind of situation? You have some limited options. The first thing that you got to look at is whenever you get in a wreck with somebody who doesn't have insurance, what you hope is that you've purchased what's called uninsured motorist coverage on your insurance policy. And uninsured motorist coverage stands into the shoes of the person who hits you and provides you coverage, insurance coverage, up to the amount that you have paid your uninsured motorist coverage for, or the amount that is warranted in that particular wreck. Now that is for your bodily injury. That means to your person. If you have uninsured motorist coverage and you have multiple vehicles in your car, you can stack your coverages over those multiple vehicles. So if you have $25,000 in uninsured motorist coverage, which is the state minimum on one vehicle, and you have 2 other vehicles, you could have a potential of $75,000 in coverage. So it's important to look at exactly what your policy says in terms of your coverages. Second thing, if we're not talking about injury to your person, if we're talking about injury to your car, your property damage, then your first form of recourse is hopefully you have collision coverage, which means it doesn't matter who's at fault. Your policy is going to, again, stand in the shoes of the defendant, and they're going to take care of you up to the amount of the damage of your car, minus whatever deductible you may have. So you may have a $500 deductible before your collision coverage kicks in. Now, if you don't have uninsured motorist coverage, and if you don't have collision coverage, and you're literally you're standing holding the bag of the damage to your body and the damage to your property, and you're trying to figure out what you can do, your options are very limited. The first thing you can do is the person who caused that wreck, you can go down to either the district court or the circuit court in the county in which the wreck occurred, and you can file an actual lawsuit. If your claim is worth less, you believe, than $20,000, then that would be injury to your body and injury to your property together. So you have those 2 claims in the state of Alabama. Then you file in the district court of the state of Alabama. If your claims are more than $20,000, then you have to file in the circuit court. And that's the court where we generally take our cases to a jury trial. So those are the things you need to take a look at. But if you don't have uninsured motorist coverage, you don't have collision coverage, you can bring an action against the driver. Sometimes, though, the juice isn't worth the squeeze, because if they don't have insurance, you may have
They may not have assets.
They may not have any assets to go and get.
Okay.
So.
Christina, thanks for your question. We're going to take a quick break. If you're on the line, stay on the line. We've got a couple of callers on hold. We'll get right back to you.
Advertising fee to the station. You're watching WAAY 31 Law Call, the Tennessee Valley's only live legal call-in show for 30 years and counting. Presented by the award-winning personal injury and wrongful death law firm Timberlake, League & Brooks. Featuring the knowledge and experience of attorney Michael Timberlake, attorney Will League, attorney Heath Brooks, attorney William Maservi, attorney Bobby Marsh, and hosted by family law attorney Sharon Doviet. Your rights, your calls, live. This is WAAY 31 Law Call.
Welcome back to 31 Law Call. It's Ask Us Anything night. Heath Brooks is here from Timberlake League and Brooks. Before we get to some callers, we've got callers on hold. We always like to see what folks are doing in your free time. What do you do with your family in your free time? And we've got this picture. What are we looking at?
This is a climbing wall over at High Point over in Mid-City. And we took my daughter there because we figured she may want to climb. And so she starts getting on some of the smaller walls, and then she decides to go over to kind of the adult walls.
Oh my goodness.
And gets all the way up the wall to where she's just a little speck up there.
Evelyn,
and
nice.
Yeah, and so she's a little climber.
How old is Evelyn?
She's 11.
She's doing great.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
My knees were shaking seeing her. I'm not a big heights guy, so.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
I love to see
cool.
what everybody's doing.
Yeah.
We've got Sean on the line with a question from Madison. Hi, Sean. Thanks for waiting through the commercial break. What's your question tonight?
Thank you. I was just seeing if you guys, or if they handle. I was just seeing if you handle cases with assisted living. My mother was in assisted living in Madison, and and she passed away in February.
Sorry.
And I just was seeing if I would have any cases because of neglect and negligence, because I used to see her every week or every day, and I noticed the other staff members weren't taking care of patients and stuff. And before she passed, there was 6 other patients that's passed within a 4-month period, and I've caught them when I went to visit her, she's sitting in her feces and stuff, and I went to approach the staff members, and they were really kind of hesitant to come in and help in their changes, and we paid good money for that place in Madison.
Yeah.
Sean, is this an assisted living facility, or is this a nursing home?
It was a facility, like assisted living.
Okay.
So when you look at a case and you're hearing what he's talking about, is there a difference in your mind to a nursing home and assisted living?
Yeah, there's trends, right? There's trends in the way that the potential cases against assisted living facilities and nursing homes, technically skilled nursing facilities or skilled care facilities, treat their patients, and there's different trends you see in the lack of treatment of patients. And so the first thing is in a skilled care facility or skilled nursing facility, that is the type of facility we normally think of as a nursing home. And that type of facility is governed by federal law. And federal law lays down the requirements that a nursing home has to adhere to in order to properly take care of their patients. And there is an element of state law that follows along that federal law. Federal law sets a minimum. State can have a higher standard than the federal law, but not lower. And so when your family member goes into a skilled nursing facility, then they have to be taken care of according to a code. The assisted living facility is a little different. It is not governed by federal law. It is governed by, in Alabama, it is governed by the Alabama law that provides the requirements for an assisted living facility that are oftentimes much less stringent than a skilled nursing facility. And there's a reason for that. And the reason for that is in a skilled nursing care facility, you need round-the-clock care. Okay. In other words, you are completely and totally dependent for the nursing home for your activities of daily living, oftentimes for changing your medications, sometimes for moving a patient on a bed to make sure they don't get pressure sores. But you have reached a level of care where you're completely disabled and you require round-the-clock nursing care. Okay. Assisted living facilities are a little different. What therefore is there a situation where you haven't quite gotten to the point where you need somebody helping you around the clock. What you need is somebody to come in and maybe help with your cooking or help with your cleaning, or maybe sometimes you need some medication that's administered. But basically, you can live on your own and you need assistance from with medical care and sometimes a nurse. So the requirements are much different. Here's the problem with assisted living facilities that oftentimes happens. Because of the way that assisted living facilities are funded, there are oftentimes a lot of private pay that goes into assisted livings. In other words, you pay the assisted living facility every month for your room and your board. That is different than a nursing home because insurance pays the nursing home. So every month you're paying for your room and board in an assisted living facility. So you run into a problem where an assisted living facility doesn't want to get rid of a patient that may need to go to a skilled nursing facility, that may need round-the-clock care, and then they keep holding on because they keep getting that check. And so what you end up happening is you end up having people that are staffing at an assisted living facility that are not equipped to take care of somebody who should be at a skilled nursing facility.
And they're not pushing them to go to nursing.
And they're not pushing them there. And so you have a failure of, and I've seen it, you have some, oftentimes people are not fed properly, their medications are not administered properly, their blood sugar is not checked properly, and all of those things that at a skilled nursing facility would be done at an assisted living facility, they're not, even though the assisted living facility knows they don't have the resources to take care of a patient that needs skilled care. So that's what I see a lot of times in assisted living situation. Sean, I'm not saying that that's what happened to your mother at your assisted living facility. I can tell you that oftentimes folks that do my kind of work, that's one of the trends we see with an assisted living facility. What you would need to do is you would need to gather the medical records from the assisted living facility and gather the medical records from the hospital if you're going to want an attorney to review your potential claim for your mother. You know, and that's something we do regularly. So, but most lawyers that do that kind of work are going to need to review the records. But you know, I am so terribly sorry for what happened to your mama.
Sorry for your loss.
It is not something that should happen to anyone in that kind of scenario, and you know, I'm really sorry for that.
Thanks for your call, Sean. We've got Paula on the line with a question. Hi, Paula. Thanks for calling in tonight. What's your question?
I have a question. We were in a traffic accident, but we were coming down the street, and the light was green, and it stayed green until it turned red. There was no caution light.
Okay.
We hit somebody. It was our fault. But we had witnesses that was policeman or deputy, I'm not sure which one it was,
Okay.
that saw the light. So would we have anything, anywhere going against them because they wrote it our fault?
Okay.
Okay.
If there's no yellow, so they're making it sound like it's her fault, but if there's no yellow, is that something that she could use in attacking that?
Well, let's unpack this for a minute. So this is a traffic light case, and it could be a traffic light malfunction case, which is some we see those sometimes. We see oftentimes, sometimes we have to call, and who handles traffic lights is the city engineer. Or the county engineer if it's a county light. But in Huntsville, we have a city engineer that could tell you at every single traffic light in the entire city of Huntsville what the sequence of lighting is. So, you know, how long a light at 3 o'clock will stay red before it stays green going east and west and then north and south. So the first thing that needs to happen when you have a situation where a light is malfunctioning is to contact the engineer of the city where that light is located and see if you can get the light sequence. And I'm guaranteeing what's going to end up happening is the light sequence is going to say that light's appropriately functioning when it turns red for X amount of seconds, then yellow for X amount of seconds, then green, or vice versa, green, yellow, red. And you can figure out, okay, well, this was a light malfunction, this wasn't my fault. And so in a situation where the light malfunctions, you go through a light because it's malfunctioning and somebody hits you, then the question is one, you're not responsible. So is there anyone else that could be responsible if you got hurt, or to pay for your property damage, or to pay for the property damage of the person that also was injured or maybe had property damage? And the question is that you may be able to make a claim against the city if they didn't properly upkeep their equipment. But the problem is anytime you bring a claim against a city in the state of Alabama, they have sovereign immunity. That means they're immune from being sued. You can't sue a city unless the state of Alabama has said you can sue the city in these kinds of circumstances. And that's a little unclear in terms of a malfunctioning traffic light. Last thing I say, sometimes cities will contract with another company to upkeep their lights. That's something you may want to look into as well.
Is it like computerized with a log? If they say here's the sequence, do they have an actual record of what the log is?
Depends on the city.
Okay.
Depends on the city.
Okay, we'll take a break. Be right back with more of your questions. It's Ask Us Anything night.
It's the
which pays an advertising fee to the station.
If you didn't get your questions answered tonight, here's how to get in touch with Heath Brooks with Timberlake League & Brooks. They are personal injury attorneys, so everything from car accidents to nursing home negligence. 256-536-0770 or 800-804-2502. The website is law-injury.com. And if you like them on Facebook, you can learn more about the law that way.
And if you need to get in touch with Sharon Doviet, she does family law, that's child custody, divorces, and the like. She can be reached at 256-539-7337 or www.sharonfamilylaw.com.
We're getting a lot of questions about flock cameras.
Yeah, we're going to have to do a whole show on flock cameras. Look, if they're around your house, don't take them down. You know, there's a potential you could file claims and things like that against them, but be warned, taking them down is destruction of property.
Okay, we'll see you next week. Thanks for all your questions. Good night.